There are certain things that I really try to avoid talking about, but for sake of inclusivity, I was asked to talk about something I really don't want to talk about. And why don't I want to talk about this? It's because certain things just get me so flummoxed, so annoyed, that I don't really have a genuine way of talking about it without getting irritated. And the reason that is be simple. It's because there's zero evidence behind this conspiracy that has been going on for 50 years now. And it just seems to be building momentum. And people just refuse to believe. As much proof as they're shown, they still refuse to let it go. But let's continue, shall we?
We really did go to the moon, but when we went there, we were greeted by off-world visitors and
Off-world visitors. I'm assuming, young lady, you mean aliens. Not, Russians that are already there. Or Chinese that are already there. Or Japanese that are already there. Or Indians that are already there. Any of the other countries that have flown to the moon, but you don't ever seem to admit that. You stick with the US. We didn't go to the moon because everything with the moon landing is fake. But now, as you can hear, and I've actually heard this theory before, we went there and we got greeted by aliens. And they told us, this is ours. Go away. But let her continue.
they said, you can't be here. You're not allowed to be here. And so essentially NASA had to cut and edit all of those parts out. They just kept little bits and pieces. And essentially they overlaid this fake moon landing with the studio and the real.
Okay, so that's kind of a new twist that I probably have heard, but I've forgotten about. So they created the fake moon landing down here on Earth, and they sewed together, edited together footage from the actual landing and the fake moon landing. Doesn't seem to make any kind of sense unless... Anyways, carry on.
Moon landing, and they combined them together.
Wow.
And this is why they haven't been back to the moon, because it's active.
Right.
There's a lot of extraterrestrial bases there, and humans aren't allowed there.
That makes a lot of sense because we've advanced so much technology wise and we haven't been back.
Yep, exactly.
So that story adds up to me.
So that last line that the gentleman said is one that's huge. And I'm not saying this to sound like old man get off my lawn, but the honest truth is we don't have the technology that we had to go to the moon in the 60s and 70s. We don't have it anymore. Why? Because technology here on Earth has evolved so much that the technology that existed that got us to the moon in the 60s and early 70s is antiquated now. It doesn't even exist. And you're probably sitting there watching us thinking, okay, old man, why haven't we made this technology to get to the moon? Because the reason we stopped going to the moon in the 70s wasn't because what she said. It wasn't because the fact that aliens were there and told us not to go again, which is debunkable by the fact that not only in 1969 did we land on the moon, with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. We went back a few more times to the moon with other missions. Were there no aliens on those trips that told us don't come here anymore? No, you only hear about the first one. And the reason we stopped going in the 70s is people were complaining that it was spending way too much money to go to the moon for what they perceived as no reason at all. That's why they stopped going to the moon. It wasn't because of aliens. It was a fiscal decision, whether it be actual citizens not wanting their tax money to get spent on going to the moon, or governments not wanting to spend the money on going to the moon anymore. And in that ensuing 50 years, the technology has eroded, has gone away. So the reason we're just now starting to get back into going to the moon, and it's not just America, it's the Chinese, it's India, it's Japan, it's other nations as well. We're just now starting to get 21st century technology ready to go back to the moon. Simple as that. It's not aliens. And that's coming from someone that believes aliens have visited our planet. So take that for what it's worth. So the first video that we watched is your standard sort of, we didn't land on the moon, but then it really, really gets deep with this next video. And they say something in this video that gets totally misconstrued for the past 50 years because somebody just doesn't want to believe. Some people use the wrong verbiage when they talk, but we'll get to it in a second.
What if I told you the moon isn't what we think it is?
Oh, not again.
Listen to me. It's not just some lifeless rock drifting through space. Some believe it's much more than that, maybe even a machine.
So it's a machine. It's like a Borg cube. It's not a hunk of this planet that broke off and achieved orbit by the gravitational forces of this planet. It's a machine, huh? Okay, continue.
A machine.
Exactly, and here's where things get strange. Those meteor impacts we always hear about, no matter how many hit the moon, they never break beyond a certain depth.
One thing they're conveniently not mentioning is some of those craters have been measured, and some of them are miles deep. So if this is a Borg cube or a mechanical object, you have this miles long layer of space dust that is used to hide it. And for the fact that even though the moon has minute amount of gravity, it doesn't have the amount that it has here on Earth. Not enough to hold something in place. Put it this way. If the if the moon had water on it, there isn't enough gravity to sustain that water on the surface of the moon. But these craters aren't that deep, so I guess that was debunked, right?
As if something hard, like metal, lies beneath the surface. Doesn't that make you wonder what's really hiding in there?
You're saying the moon could be built?
That's what some think. It gets crazier, though. In 1969, when NASA crashed a module onto the moon, seismic sensors picked up something eerie. The moon didn't just absorb the hit, it rang like a bell. For hours. That's not what you'd expect from a chunk of rock.
Okay, the rang like a bell is the comment that I mentioned earlier. That was one of the NASA scientists after they crashed something into the moon. He referenced that the sound was like the tolling of a bell. And he picked the wrong phraseology to use with that because it didn't really ring like a bell, but people take that line and they run with it. Didn't really ring like a bell. That was just a phrase that he used for the noise that it made, the earthquake, for lack of a better phrase, that the crash into the moon created. And he just, slip of the tongue or bad choice of words, said it rang like a bell.
Sounded hollow. And in the 90s, when they hit it again with a missile, same thing. And here's the odd part.
Okay, he's true about that part. When they did it again in the 90s, it did make the exact same sound, but nobody in the 90s said that it rang like a bell. And that's the part that they always seem to overlook. They stick on that little line from the 1960s that it rang like a bell, when in fact the scientists that said it didn't really mean that it rang like a bell.
They didn't just fire randomly. They targeted a crater, as if they knew something was down there.
Like a hidden structure?
That's the theory. Some believe it was built by an ancient, advanced civilization, maybe even the Atlanteans.
Okay, this entire video, I would like to hear your source work, where you're learning all of this stuff, instead of using the oft-used phrase, some believe, that like that's a source work that people use far too often. Some believe. Well, who? Who is it that believes it? Let us know so we can verify this information that you're given. And where the mythological country people known as the Atlanteans, now all of a sudden they're astronauts. So when Atlantis disappeared, they went to the moon. Carry on.
Others say it's a base, left here by beings from another world. Think about it. The moon perfectly controls our tides, stabilizes Earth's tilt, and never shows us its dark side.
Yeah, actually it does show us its dark side. It's just the fact that half of it is always dark because of the fact that the sun is only shining on one half of it. Hence the phrase dark side of the moon. We can go to the dark side. We have seen the dark side. But carry on.
Doesn't that seem too perfect?
If the moon was placed here, who put it there?
That's the million-dollar question. Whoever or whatever built it might still be out there, watching. The moon isn't just a mystery. It might be the biggest secret we were never supposed to uncover.
But yet, if there was this giant mystery that's right above for us to look at every single night, wouldn't people wonder about that? Wouldn't we learn about that? But I forgot. You people are so convinced that there's a conspiracy behind every curtain that this world isn't really real anyways. But hey, that's the moon in a nutshell. And just so you know, we went to the moon in 1969, and in a few years, we're going to go there again. Matter of fact, the Chinese and the Japanese and the Indians are going to be going as well. So I guess the conspiracy will just get thicker. And the final video that I want to share is a really quick one, because people say this one all the time and they just they refuse to understand, I suppose. And it's the famous video of the rover leaving the moon, going to dock and head back to Earth.
99, proceeded, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Right away, Houston. That's your good.
Okay, so their biggest thing is, I'm going to leave him up there, the fact that where's the cameraman? And I actually read some of the comments with that, and somebody said that you forgot the cameraman. Do you not think they set the camera up to record them disembarking? Kind of the same thing with the initial moon landing. People will say, how did they get that picture of Neil Armstrong climbing out? Well, they had a camera that they had set up. They cranked it out and set it up right next to the ladder for him to climb down. It's not rocket science. Well, in this case, it is rocket science, but that's why, folks, you seem to think the fact that that camera footage was shot, meaning it's not real. They left the camera there. That's the one thing I would love to do, not only with flat earthers, but with, well, they're much the same people. Flat earthers and people that are moon deniers. I wish I was a billionaire, because I would pay for all of them to get aboard one of Bezos's ships, which I realize some of you don't think that's real either. And maybe I'll cover that in another video. But yeah, I'd love, if I was a billionaire, I'd pay for all of you to get on board and go up. And the flat earthers could see that we don't live on a flat earth. And the people that don't believe that we went into space would be able to see, yeah, we went into space. But hey, if you have any thoughts, maybe you completely disagree with me, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, because remember, nothing good ever happens until after dark, because that's when you see the moon, except when you see it during the day. And that's a video for another day that I'll tackle.